Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thanks for coming to watch my talk about motion control with multimodal AI. So I've just been introduced, but I knew that was going to happen. OK, so I might have some issues with my connection, which means that either I'm going to have to speak very slowly, or this is going to be, oh no. OK, show anyway? Yeah, whatever. OK, so as long as the text shows, I don't really care about the rest. So yes, my name is Gerard. I go by Charlie on most places online. I'm a senior research engineer at CrowdStrike. So I work in cybersecurity, but I'm still mostly a front-end engineer. And my role, part of my role, is to kind of think about new tools that security engineers can use to do their job faster and, let's say, catch bad people faster. Apart from that, in the tech community in general, I'm an author and a front-end master's instructor. So both of these activities were done around TensorFlow.js. So actually, the last time that I spoke at JSConf US, my talk was also about motion control. I mean, at the time, we were saying machine learning, not AI. But it was kind of related to using machine learning and AI to make kind of your own interactions with devices and interfaces. But this one is going to be a little bit different. Overall, I'm a creative technologist. So I like to look at technology in a very creative lens. So try to make things or tools do what they're not supposed to do or what they were not built to do, and kind of see how far I can push it, and mostly in JavaScript on the web. And otherwise, I have a few non-tech hobbies, as Robin was saying. So I have a drum kit. I have not yet played with it. So now I was telling her that next week I'm going to try and sign up for my first actual drumming lesson. But I have the drum kit to start with. OK, so as I was saying, just while I introduce myself, I've been doing a lot of things with TensorFlow.js. But obviously, in the past few years, people have been talking more about generative AI. And when I want to learn about new things, I have to find a way for me to be excited about it. So Sarah was talking about having fun. When tools started to be available with generative AI, people were building chatbots, and that's not really what I'm interested in. So I started asking myself, can LLMs be used for motion control? So when you think about LLMs, large language models, you think about text, you can think like, well, no. But that's not a really good, that's not a really interesting answer to just say no. So if we ask the questions, how can LLMs be used for motion control? So I started just wondering, OK, I like doing stuff with motion control. I want to learn more about generative AI. How would that even be possible to build another system that recognizes my motions and then controls something? So every time I think about motion control, I kind of think back, oh, no. Well, I'm going to describe, because there was a picture on that slide. So hopefully, that's the only reason why it's not working. So there's a project called the Room E project. Oh, yay, OK. The Room E project by Gerard that he built back in, or at least the YouTube video, the demo of it, was back in 2013. So it's been quite a while. We have a wired connection here. So no, I need to go off my hotspot because of the lights, but thank you. I can explain why later there's an issue. But so Gerard here was kind of experimenting with the idea of room computing. So instead of just accessing technology through your computer or your phone or maybe like a voice command thingy, what if the room that you're in was smart enough to understand what you wanted to do? So in this picture here, if you go and watch the video later, there's two lights, one on the right and one on the left. And he points at the light, and he just says, turn that light on. And he built a system that would recognize what that would mean based on the one that he's pointing at. So as a human, if I point to the right, you know it's the direction right. If there's a light, then it would be that one, et cetera. And in his system, so because it was back in 2013, there's no Gen AI, but there was a Keynote camera in the middle. And basically, based on the direction that he was pointing at, then he had a system that had two lights, and it was turning on. And if the light is on and you point again, then it would understand off instead of on, because it's already on. There was more to this project with the idea of projectors that would be aware of where you are facing in the room, so that instead of you having to reach out to your laptop that's maybe on your desk or your phone that's maybe on your couch, you would have a system that would understand which wall you're facing, for example. And if you say, oh, what's the weather? Then it would project on the wall that you're facing without you having to adapt to the technology. It was kind of thinking about how rooms could adapt to you. So obviously, we still don't have this. And instead of waiting for big tech to do it for me, then as engineers, we can do it for ourselves, or at least try. So hopefully by the end of this talk, now I'm not as confident as I was before, but maybe by the end of this talk, I'll show you that you actually can build something that kind of goes beyond what he had at the time, because we're not going to work with a Keynote, we're just going to work with the laptop camera. Okay, so to do this, I talked about LLMs, but let's go a little bit further. Multimodal AI, which is a machine learning system that can process multiple types of data, such as text, images, and sound. So it's kind of like a layer above LLMs, where we're still going to send some text to Gemini, but when you do motion control, you can think about the camera feed, video. Video is just a sequence of images, and multimodal AI allows you to work with images. So that's pretty cool. We're not going to do anything. I mean, actually, we might do stuff with sound if I need to turn stuff off quickly as well, because what I worked with also works with just voice commands as well. Because this is personal research, I always have to have a goal, because this is not something that I'm paid to do. So I like to have a kind of like a smaller scope so that I know when I'm done and I can move on to researching other things. So my goal here is to control a website or an IoT device with hand movements using Gemini. So I have not tried other models. I haven't tried local offline models or anything. This is kind of like my scope. I'm going to use Gemini. I'm going to see if it can recognize movements or not, and then control a website or a device. OK, so there's different approaches. When I know what I kind of want to do, there's always different ways to solve a problem. And I thought about 3 that I wanted to try. So first, I was like, OK, what if I just want to rely on the multimodal AI from Gemini? So Gemini is going to take screenshots from the webcam feed in my browser and return the best guess about what hand gesture is executed. So that's kind of like starting simple. If I can even do that, then I can add more stuff. So I'm like, OK, if I get to do that, then my second approach would be, because I worked a lot with TensorFlow.js and doing a lot more kind of like granular, fine-grained gesture recognition with raw data, can I mix that with some potential predictions from multimodal AI? And again, these approaches were before I started. So when I asked myself these questions, or when I had this plan, I had no idea if it was going to work or not. And then finally, can I actually do everything in like a DIY method? So I could have taking screenshots from the webcam, just with the normal media API, then transform that into vector embeddings that I would save in a vector database, and then kind of return the description of the gesture and only send that to Gemini. Because at the moment, I don't know when Gemini is taking screenshots, I don't know where it goes in terms of privacy and things like that. So if I wanted to do the image recognition more privately with my own system, I would just rely on Gemini for what is called function calling that we'll see after. OK, so first of all, let's try the gesture detection with Gemini. So I started with a starter repo using the live API, the web console. Because my experiments, again, is what I do on the side, I kind of want to get started quickly. I don't want to, I know how to build a React app, so I just cloned this repo to get started, and I just replaced the bits that I was interested in. So I'm going to show some code, but things change quite a lot. So don't get too caught up on what is really written. It's more understanding the process. So here, I'm going to use the model Gemini 2.0 Flash Live 001. When I started, I was using the Flash experimental. I think this one, is a bit more new, but I don't know exactly how old. And actually, over time, when you replace your models, you can actually see how much better they perform. Here, you have some config where you can say if you want the response modalities to be audio or text, if you want the AI to kind of reply to you, or if you just want something to be written on the screen. But maybe the most important part here is my first system instruction, prompt. So I just started by saying, you're my helpful assistant, looking only at the hand in the stream from the webcam, make your best guess about what the gesture means. Don't ask for additional information, just make your best guess. If you've ever played with AI so far, sometimes it tends to rumble for a while, and I'm just I just want to know the gesture. OK, so if this demo doesn't work, I will know that the rest of this talk is not going to work. And I have like 4 demos, so I'm going to have to improvise. All right. So demo 1. I'm going to explain to you what should happen, and then we see if it does. So on the left here is like what's called the console. Again, this is part of the starter repo. There's going to be a stream of text that's going to kind of go. Here, there's going to be the webcam. I'm going to click on the play button, so you're going to see me. I'm going to do a gesture in front of the webcam, and I'm just going to say I have a trigger word just because I'm not automatically triggering the detection. So I just have a trigger word that triggers my logic. And on the left, you should see a label that is returned by Gemini. And if it works, when I do a thumbs up, it should write thumbs up. When I do thumbs down, it should write thumbs up. So let's see if it works. OK, please, please, please. Now, come on. Now, oh, this is not going to work. OK. Now, I'm going to do that, refresh, but I don't think that will do anything. OK. Now, OK, this is not what I wanted, but it's better than the one before. So let's see. Now I have no idea where this is going to go. So what I was expecting, so thumbs up, it said OK, which is like kind of, OK, this is the problem with generative AI, is that it doesn't matter how much time I've rehearsed and given this talk, it will just be different every time. So when someone asks you a question and you give a thumbs up, it's kind of OK, right? So that's why I tried with another gesture. I was expecting peace sign or victory, and it said 2. I was OK, so 2 fingers. OK. So this is not necessarily going to be very helpful for the rest. So oh my God, this is going to be so fun. OK. So I want to talk about function calling, because now, OK, I pointed at the camera. It did a thing, not what I wanted, but whatever. So we want to be able to trigger things, right? It's like it gave me a label, but I want to be able to do something with it. So this is what we call function calling. So to be able to, I'm going to try to toggle a light. And that's an action that I want the AI to do. So to do this, you have to start by declaring some function declarations. That is kind of like a schema of the functions to tell the AI what the function can do, or what functions are available, and what it should be able to do. So I just have a function called toggle light. And I'm going to say that this function toggle light is going to accept a parameter of type object. And this object is going to have a property that I call on, and it's a Boolean, either true or false. And I just write a little description. It's like the state as a Boolean. And I make it required. So Gemini should not call my function toggle light without a property on that is either true or false. So that's one thing. And then the actual function is kind of like a normal function that you would write if you do front end, where the lights that I'm using are the LightFix lights, and they have an API. And you have a certain payload that you can send with like a power, brightness, duration, and then you just call your API the same way that you would do with other APIs. But the most important part is that I have to update my system instructions, because my first prompt had, look at the hand, tell me the gesture, and then I just say call the toggle light function provided. But I don't really say anything else. And I just pass the function declaration in the tools at the bottom of the configs. OK, so. OK, so I'm going to try. Let's see. Well, thank you. Oh, OK, so I'm very curious now. I'm going to be going through it with you. So here on the left, we're not going to care about what's going to happen on the left here. It doesn't matter. What's going to happen is, again, I'm going to have the webcam. I'm going to do a gesture. And I'm going to let AI figure out. I'm going to try to tell you. Should I tell you in advance? No. OK, so let's see. Now, okay. So it's a little slow because I have to run everything out of my hotspot, and the reason why is because these lights don't work with 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. They only work with 2.4, and everything now is 5, except my hotspot. So my hotspot is 2.4, and that's why I can't switch to another Wi-Fi. So okay, so what I did is I did a thumbs up, which in general is like, positive. And the AI understood, you know what I mean by understood. But it inferred that it was a positive gesture, which means turn it on. I'm going to try to reload the thing. I mean, not load, but I'm going to try to do that to show that it should turn it off. Now, okay. Usually, I swear it is much faster. So it's just that I could see in the logs that it understood, it passed the parameter false to the function, but I think it's just struggling a little bit to actually then call that function. So let's see what happens for the rest. So now, okay, I turned on one light, cool. But in general, you have multiple lights, right? And this is where we're going a bit closer to my ideal, room E project. Okay, so we move on to multi-turn function calling. So sometimes it's called compositional function calling, but we want to, because now we have 2 lights, right? So we want the AI not only to know to turn the light on or off, but also which one. So we're going to add a function to our function declaration. It's going to be, or at first we're adding a property to my toggle light, which is going to be the light ID, because again, you have to know which light you want to turn on. But I also have another function that I'm adding, which is get light. So first of all, I want to get the light, So my function name is going to be get light, and this time the parameter that is passed to this get light function is going to be, I called it detail, but it could be anything. And here I'm saying it's going to be a string, and it's going to be the detail about the light, usually a position, because I don't know the unique IDs of my lights by heart, right? I don't know that this one is, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one is ABC, 8, 5, F, whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if AI can recognize that I'm pointing right or left, and then it's going to pass the string right or left to my function get light. And then the rest is, in the app, I don't know if some of you have some Philips Hue lights, but sometimes you can give them a name. And this one in the app is called right light, and this one is called left light. But I'm just asking the AI to figure out which position I'm pointing to, and then loop through my lights, extract the ID of the light, filtering the lights, and extract the UID, and then pass it to my toggle light function. OK. So and here, I need to update my prompt, because again, I left the part with, guess the name of the gesture. But then I say, look at which hand is making a gesture, right or left. I don't even know if I needed to add that in bracket, which is kind of fun sometimes when you experiment with prompts, is that you can see if you add more or less details, does it make it better? So I say, call the getLight function, provided with the correct hand position, then make your best guess about if the gesture means light on or off, and call toggle light. That's maybe even like too much context. I could have let the AI figure out what to do with less content. So, OK, multi-turn function calling. This is this one. Same thing here. I'm going to try to do that. Let's see. Now, OK, I realized the screen is flipped. So I don't know if you saw, I was pointing right, so it did that. But the screen is like flipped. So anyway, and just for, I'm going over time. So I'm going to stop because I have another demo after. But basically, yes, so I pointed right, and you had to turn the other light. And you would assume if I point left, then you would turn the other one. But, well, actually, should I? I'm not going to try it because I'm on a roll, it's working. So, OK, so what I'm going to do, though, I have my app as like a backup. I just want to turn it off for the next one. OK. So we're going to move on to Gemini and TensorFlow.js, because now I have kind of confirmed that, I mean, kind of, not this time, but usually, that Gemini can correctly label my gestures, and then I can kind of do things with it. But when you have lights, these ones are RGB lights, right? So I don't want to just turn it on or off. I also want to maybe change the color. So what I would like to do is to like point at a light, and it would turn on, and then you do like a kind of Iron Man gesture, and then you do, and it would change the color based on like the angle of my hand. And for that, you need more granular like data points about where your hand and your fingers rather, because like the AI might know might label what this gesture is, but as I'm moving, it's not going to know, right? OK, so just quickly, if you've never worked with TensorFlow.js, you can kind of mix the code that I showed before with Gemini with a little bit of like, you import some TensorFlow.js models, and then with the hand pose detection model specifically, you can instantiate it. You can create what's called a detector. And you have a method that's called estimate hands. And it's going to look at the feed from the camera, and it's going to figure out if there's even hands or not. And I say, if there are hands, so if there's no hands, then no need to actually trigger any logic. But if there's hands, you can extract certain key points. And here I'm going to work with the pinky fingertip and the thumb fingertip specifically. So I don't have to be like, I could be like this, but whatever. OK, and then a little bit of math, because it's like, so I'm extracting the x and y coordinates of my two fingertips here. And if the math is incorrect, I just Googled it. So anyway, and I'm just calculating an angle where I'm starting with kind of like an invisible line between the tips of my finger. And as I'm rotating, I'm basically calculating an angle, and I'm applying that to the hue value of the light bulb. So if, again, I am over time, so no need to keep going. And then you just ping the API endpoint with that value. So let's see. Oh, yes, I need to update my prompt now as well. Because, again, I have my hand gesture in the stream. I'm pointing right or left, so it should turn on the correct light. So it should know that it should understand the gesture, turn on the correct light, call toggle light to turn it on or off. And then if I say if the user is making a palm gesture, call the setColor function. SetColor is the TensorFlow.js part that I just showed. So I'm just saying if I make a palm gesture to start with. So I don't say what a palm gesture is. I'm just saying, Gemini, if what I'm doing looks like a palm, trigger the setColor, and that will look at the key points on my hand and hopefully do the thing. OK, this is my favorite, but now I'm like, OK, it might be a bit slow. Let's see. So this is this one. I'm just to be sure. OK, I'm going to give it 2 tries. Now, let me give it another try. That's why I should have done that. It did not. OK. Oh no, load. What did I do? Now. This is not what I wanted. But OK, let's try again. Now. Now. No. OK, wait, let me just, I know I'm over time, but I really want to, I don't want to end on this note. OK. We're going to do this. Please, please, dear gods, just once. OK. I think it's maybe a bit too much. I saw it kind of do something, but anyway. Now. Now. No, no, I won't do it. One more. Now. Now. No, not at all. OK, so you'll just have to believe me that I swear. OK, well, it's fine. So usually it works. I swear, usually I point, it doesn't do this weird thing, and yeah, so anyway, whatever. So what about the last one? I'm not going to demo that one. I'm just going to talk about it quickly because I'm still kind of working on it. But the way to do it with a VectorDB yourself, so kind of, and maybe try to even do it offline, that would be really cool. Maybe actually that would be how I should demo it next time. I'm just going to explain it with emojis where I would do the same thing, the thumbs up in front of the camera, and I would take, using the Get User Media API, it would take a screenshot and convert it directly in vector embeddings. So I don't know if you've never seen a vector embedding. It's just a vector with a bunch of numbers. And that would be a vector representation of the image that is just being taken. And I would store that into a vector database. I've played with DataStax AstraDB, but you can play with whatever you want. And as I'm recording a few gestures, I would add also a little description and a label. So I would kind of be building my personal little data set that would kind of look like this. So on my DataStax database, there's just like 3 different gestures where, well, my vectors here, they're not exactly, yeah. And the description, I'm just sometimes describing, okay, if I do that and I record a gesture and I'm converting it into vector embeddings, then I say, oh, it's a hand gesture with the thumb pointing up and the rest of the fingers are not visible and things like this. And then the way that you would use that live is actually that you would redo your live gesture in front of the camera. It would live in the browser, transform it into vector embeddings. It would return, like it would basically compare that to the vector embeddings that you have in your vector database. So it would do a vector similarity search with the image that you saved. And it would return either the description of or the label that is associated with that. And only that would be potentially sent to Gemini. So if you have any concerns about privacy, like where are my images going, your images would just be stored in your own little vector database. And only the description of the gesture is then sent to Gemini. And then it would do, magic, the same type of function calling. That would work. And here I'm using Gemini, but you could even think about, well, then if you have a local model offline, then maybe you could even do that like on a little Raspberry Pi, like in your house. So that would be like the next step for that project. But that's where I'm at. So anyway, I wanted to share some resources because there is existing research that is looking into using large language models or multimodal AI for gesture detection. But what researchers are doing is more around nonverbal communication with potential future like humanoids, like androids, I forgot the word, like the Tesla fake robots. Anyway, so if you want to communicate with future robots like that, instead of just using words, it would be very useful if these robots understood gestures. Like, for example, if you do the gesture stop, you want a robot to be able to stop without you having to say the word stop, potentially. And a lot of communication is also nonverbal. So they're researching more of that than actually controlling devices. But, it's still interesting. And just before I finish, I just wanted, I was hoping, I kind of showed that like we're getting closer to something like this. It's just don't want to, if you don't want to change the colors, it works. Just have a light that has one color. That was that. He only had one color. So technically, it works. But I just wanted to explain that we're kind of getting closer to something that could be like this, where your environment understands you and, understand you and what you want to do without you having to adapt to the interface. Hopefully, in the future, I would hope that there would be more of like, you would maybe train over time a system that kind of knows you and not in a creepy way, but yeah, and you would get to really have like a custom home setup. But anyway, sorry, I'm over time, but if you have any questions about this, I'll be around, but thank you very much.